Se non sa någon här.
לא שומעים כלום, אלוהים.
Okay, cool. The food.
Hi everybody, it's Mark here at Teslary, and we had a pretty bad day in Tesla world. It was a close of $265.28, which is a pretty staggering drop of $9.11 per share. The number is high, but I guess in percentage terms, a negative 3.32% move on Tesla could be considered typical on a bad day. So, I mean, we talked about this last week where, number one, that seasonally, or just historically, the week after September's OPEX was just really bad. So what did we look at? We looked at the charts from the seasonality aspect. We looked at the historical data that shows what for the past like 3 decades, something like the vast majority of the time, something like 75% of the time, 80% of the time, it is a down week. And we talked about this 4 weeks that September and August are just really, really bad for the stock market. And if you want to know why, I think there's a couple reasons why that I've talked about as well. Is that imagine if you haven't watched other videos, I'm sorry. If you watch the other videos, I'm sorry. I just want to go over it real quick for anyone that's new that's watching. Imagine you're everyday trader. It's January of 2023. You've been hearing for months and years that inflation's out of control. We're going into a recession. I'm going to buy bonds. I'm buying gold. I'm going to stay in utilities. Energy is still going to be a great play, even though one sector doesn't lead 2 years in a row. But, whatever. Energy is a great play. And then you get destroyed within a matter of like a month. Within like a month, you're destroyed. And 2 months in, you're like, oh no, I missed out on multiple dozens of percent move on Tesla, even from an S&P 500 perspective or a QQQ NASDAQ perspective, you're missing out on like a dozen percent, or you're missing out on Nvidia's 300% move. And then you're looking at yourself and you're professional. I mean, if you're a professional money manager, you're in a really bad spot. I mean, if you're just a typical, a regular, everyday, ordinary investor and trader that day trades every now and then, you feel bad about it. But then imagine if you just put yourself in a money manager's position, and they're 6 months, 8 months into the year, let's say, and you're like, wow, I got nothing to show for it. Actually, I have losses to show for the year because bonds are down really bad. I mean, really bad. And we have gold doing nothing. Oil just got back now, but you had to wait like 5-6 months to get a nice play on oil. And in some tickers, they're not making all-time highs. So if you're buying pretty high and you're like, you know what, it's going to come back, and it doesn't come back for over half a year, your return on your for your customers is not looking great. So what's going to happen now? What's the best thing to do now is you're going to kind of force the issue, right? This is kind of like as a whole market thing. It is sell September. And what it does, it just sets it up for a better close to the year. They need performance. This is their job. And the thing about it, everyone in the whole Wall Street area, the whole Wall Street world, it's almost like they're in cahoots. They have to work together. They have to. There's no option for them. They have 3 months to get their stuff together and try to beat the benchmark. And I said that in yesterday's video or the video from the weekend, what's the best way to do it? You just all silently agree we're going to do one thing. We're going to boost energy. We're pumping energy so you get a positive run on energy. We're shorting tech. Then you can go ahead and get your gain from shorting tech. And then when it bottoms in like September, October, then that kind of gray area, we don't know when, if it's going to bottom then you go up and you go along, and then you capture like a 7% move into the end of the year. And you're like, I got 10% for the year. My customers love me. But at the expense of everyone else who's just in the market, just hoping that, things finally go up, because there's a lot of tickers that aren't seeing, they're not seeing significant highs when you're thinking on a long-term perspective. Like us, like Tesla holders, where's our redemption? Anyways, we might not get one for a while. And what are the reasons for that? Number one is we're getting to the end of the quarter. Okay, we're getting to the end of September. maybe I'm like, we're just basically halfway through. But essentially, after the worst week in the markets, 52 weeks of the year, this week is over. We're going to be in the end of September. And what do you do then? It's like, you're not going to be able to, as Tesla, what are you going to do? You're not going to send out like a invitation to the Cybertruck delivery event with like 1 week to spare before the end of the quarter, right? I mean, they could. And since I can't go, I don't care either way. But for the people who have reservations to the delivery event or the handover event, they, to buy a ticket and make a hotel reservation with a week to spare so you can deliver before the end of the month. I mean, you have to do it. Like, you have to send that invitations out now, like today, just to be fair to the people, so they're not buying tickets on the last minute, paying like $700 round trip to go down to Texas or wherever the event's going to be. That's just rude. So we're getting to the point where, we're like, so are we like, we're not, when it comes to the quote unquote quarter, is there going to be a handover event at the end of this quarter, as in like a 3-month period, or literally like a financial quarter for Tesla? I don't know what it's going to be. But eventually we're going to find out. But without a nice positive catalyst for the week that's really just really bad. We were talking last week that, if you sold a call once on Monday, when it peaked at what was it? Something like 278, like in some sense, then you would be sitting pretty even until now. I think one of the calls I sold last week is just basically worthless and expires next Friday. It's like most of it is completely profit, basically. And because you had a whole week of price going nowhere. It's nice to think about like, okay, we had this nice pump on Monday, but you just have to come to the realization, like, you're well outside the, if you're looking at, this is, the average move for Tesla would have been like something around here, like 263 to 265 for last week on a really optimistic calculation. And you were well outside that in the first like hour of trading on last week on Monday. And you stayed outside. We had an outside week the whole week when it comes to kind of like the estimated move, being outside the estimated move. And you actually kind of like, even on the really bad days of the S&P 500 and the really bad days of the NASDAQ, Tesla was just like flat. And so it's almost not surprising that, at the end of the day, on the end of the day of like Friday, we're talking like the amount of orders that are being placed just to sell whatever, they wanted to get out, because it's like, okay, so I know the S&P 500 destroyed me. Like, if you're not a Tesla shareholder, we were looking on Friday, like, yeah, we were down, but we weren't down we weren't down for the week, where the rest of the index and a lot of other stocks were down for the week. Some like big tech names, be it Nvidia, are down multiple days in a row, pretty big. And so like, it's not surprising when like Apple, Nvidia is green today, because we had ours, right? We had ours. Yeah, I mean, we can still definitely close that gap, because knowing Tesla, okay, let's just scare everyone and scare ourselves. If I was to take the ruler on TradingView and just drag it down to do a gap close, that would be a 6.29% move. You drop 1% a day, you're getting there by the end of the week. And it's like, oh, okay. And okay, let's look at Nvidia. Let's look at Nvidia on like an hourly. Everyone was talking about this right here. Let's look at it. This is the gap. And from the high to close at that gap, that would have been a 13% move. And no one was thinking that it was going to happen. And no one was thinking it was going to happen. But it happened. So do you think you can't close a 10% move on Tesla, who can do like a 7% move on it? There are days, in the past couple of weeks where you do it like -3, +7, -7. So it can happen. I just want everyone to be mentally prepared. Think about Tesla. What is it? When the Model 3 came out, nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. Only to find out the next day you're getting price cuts on the Model X, the Model S, and then, but okay, we'll raise the price of the Model 3 and everyone should be happy, right? Oh, margins are expanding. No. No one cares. It's not even factored in. We're going to talk about the Goldman Sachs revision to earnings in a couple minutes. It's really the only real news that was like really a mover. It was a pre-market kind of situation, really caused the stock to gap down. Thanks, Goldman Sachs. I mean, Goldman Sachs is just catching up to the news, to the party. I don't even know what's going on. But anyways, we're looking at Nvidia within less than, how many days is this? Okay, it took 18 days to close the gap. And it closed the gap in a fashion where it was like, oh, the gap is there. Oh, we're going to go well below it. And then we're going to break even. I mean, imagine that. Imagine catching that NVIDIA move. People are like, wait a second. This thing is so oversold. It's crazy. Okay. So that move is 4%. That would have been an amazing trade. I wasn't really watching NVIDIA all that much. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even notice it happened. All I remember is like in the morning, everyone's like, gap close and more. And I'm like, okay. But anyways, Apple had a good day because Apple had this whole like, oh, there's a real big backlog on the iPhone orders, meaning that there's probably more demand than anticipated. That gap is looking to be closed at any second. But, we can say that Apple's had a hard time over the last couple of weeks, right? And let me just draw. Okay, we're all Tesla shareholders, right? I'm going to draw down on TradingView and you tell me if you would have a heart attack on this. Okay, and actually let me start from the high so we can get actually a trading like time frame to get to that low. It took 16 days and 18 hours to get to a negative 12% move. There's like all these people freaking out. Apple's like selling off like crazy. Apple's selling off like crazy. A 12% move. Tesla would get a 12% move in 2 days. I don't know. These people have it easy. These people have it. If you're an Apple investor, you have it real easy because at least you're getting a dividend, right? Not much of a dividend, but you're getting something. What Tesla's getting, and maybe one day we'll get a dividend in like 10 years. Tesla is going to be threatening a gap close on a bad day tomorrow. And we're going to be like, yeah, we closed that in 1 day, guys. We just did negative 6% in 1 day. I don't mean to be super bearish because there's a lot to be really happy about when it comes to Tesla. It's like you saw I'm probably going to have the Cybertruck video with Netanyahu open this video and I usually don't do that because I don't really care about like events that don't really affect pricing, don't affect price action. Okay, so if you just want to know a quick, like if you didn't watch Tesla news, you weren't on Twitter, this is what happened. Elon was in, I want to say it was New York because a lot of world leaders are coming in for the UN event and the Turkey, Erdogan was there. Turkey's, is it president? And he met with Elon and Elon had a private meeting with his son and the leadership from Turkey. They asked Elon to make a factory in Turkey. Elon did whatever, who knows. Elon, I think, flew down to a factory. I don't know which factory he flew down. Maybe he actually went all the way down to Texas. I don't know why he would do that if Netanyahu is going to Texas. I'm not sure where Netanyahu was. But anyways, if he was in Texas, they were touring the factory. And maybe it was because the video was the Cybertruck and the test track, which is a sick video because Elon kind of floors it. And I hope I can figure out how to add it to the video at the beginning. But it's sick, right? That's not affecting price action. Meeting other countries' world leaders, not affecting price action. I think for the main reason is that you're getting to the point in your understanding. Remember, like he was doing that whirlwind tour. Elon's going to France. Elon's going to Japan. He went to China. He went to. He talked to the Indian Prime Minister. Indonesia's begging for a factory. Malaysia is begging for a factory. So all these countries are vying for attention. But the reality is, why start up all those supply chains in the middle of nowhere when you can just expand either the capacity to produce vehicles at Berlin, Austin, Fremont, Shanghai. Like we have facilities that are not even I don't think Berlin's even being run full tilt. Austin has like the worst efficiency in the world. I don't know what's happening. We got rid of, another bit of news. No one's buying this. No, you can no longer buy the Model Y standard range. Because I think what everyone's saying is all those cells that were devoted to the standard range for the Model Y, they're being reserved for Cybertruck. And what does that mean? That means one thing and one thing only. Our battery ramp for battery cells sucks. We suck at making batteries. We're no better than Ford at that yet. Ford is always saying like he was really interested in the battery factory and all that kind of stuff because the reality is in America, we're just not good at it right now. We're just not. And we need to get better at it because if we want to ramp Cybertruck, we need a lot of batteries and we need a more efficient Austin plant. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But anyways, it's not like people are going to buy cars when the loans are like for a new loan. I mean, a new car loan with mid-tier credit is probably going to be like over 10%. So no one's buying cars, and then everyone's going to penalize Tesla for cutting prices because no one can get a loan. Are people looking at loan origination? Are people looking at consumer credit? It's not happening, guys. I don't know why it's like some mystery. It's always like, why is Tesla not selling more cars than we think they should sell? No one, I mean, people's credit cards are maxed out to the point it's over $1 trillion in credit card balances with like with the delinquency rate, like month over month, that's increasing at like the fastest pace in history. Corporate bankruptcies are equaling GFC level as far as just like number terms of corporate bankruptcies. And it's like, so you're cutting prices on cars? Like you want to make cars more affordable. I mean, we're talking about, you know, legacy auto manufacturers who don't even have factories running. So just heads up, Tesla's down 3%, over 3%. And let's look at Ford. What's Ford? Okay, I haven't looked at Ford today. I haven't looked at the legacy stuff today. I usually do. But let's just have some fun, okay? And we're gonna go through Ford, GM, and Stellantis just real quick. Ford is down. Jesus Christ, it's only down 2%. And we talked about this chart. And I said it, so I'm not like, oh, surprise. If you guys watch my videos, you know that if you show me this chart, okay, if you showed me this chart, we looked at GM last week. If you show me this Ford chart I would buy that chart. I would buy that chart right here. When it comes back down and it kind of tests this horizontal, which is like right here to here, and it starts moving up, I'd buy that breakout right there. So from a technical perspective, you know, Ford, GM, Stellantis, they're not essentially overbought in specific timeframes. Like this is in a 2 month, was it? Like in a 2 month time frame, it's down 24%. This is already priced into the stock. So you have to understand that when you heard about the UAW stuff and the breakdown in negotiations months ago, that was your time to go short. Going short now, like this isn't 2019 anymore. Traders are much more proficient at processing news, having that almost insider-like information. People are front-running things much, much quicker. I'm not saying you can't see lower pricing in Ford, because it's not like we haven't seen it this year already. I mean, we've seen 11s on Ford. It's not going to be like, oh, if it happens, it happens. But this is already front-run. So, but it's still frustrating, right? From a perspective of like, Tesla's down 3.3%. Ford is down 2%, the one that's most affected by the strike. Let's look at General Motors, who's probably going to be outperforming Ford. Let's find out. So GM is down. Yep. So GM was only down 1.8% compared to 2 something for Ford. But look at the same chart. This is a chart I would have bought. If this was Tesla's chart, you'd buy that chart. You would buy it. But unfortunately, if you thought Tesla would ever make a double bottom, you're wrong. It would actually it would look like a double bottom, and then it will sell off into oblivion. Because that's Tesla style. It's not gonna be that easy. It's not gonna be easy for Tesla. Like the only thing on Tesla that we're working with, let's just like have fun. You go to a big time frame in Tesla, and this is what you hope for. You're looking at the chart. And you're saying, this is a spring, and you just pray to God that you don't retest the spring. Because mind you, let's go back in time to one of our first breakouts, and you're telling me, imagine you're here. Imagine this is December 2019. You think that, okay, we broke above resistance. We've been here for 6 years. We're out. We're done. We're never going to see this pricing ever again. We're never going to see it ever again. And then in a matter of fact, you do see the pricing again, and it only took you 7-8 days to get there. So, you know. Anyways, back to GM. GM is selling off a little bit. That's good. I think they don't deserve to be here. I don't think they should no longer be a going concern. I think they do a disservice to this country. They don't even make their freaking cars here. And Tesla makes almost, for certain models, they're making most of the stuff in America. And these people who are supposedly, we're trying to preserve American jobs, we're giving them $2 billion out of our pockets to give as like a supplemental way to retain labor through a grant from the federal government to these auto manufacturers. I'm like, they're not even making most of their cars here. They're not even making most of the cars. Let's look at Stellantis. Stellantis doesn't have necessarily same type of exposure. Is it STLA? Yeah, STLA. I never actually looked at Stellantis before, I don't think. And see, so Stellantis has a much different chart. It's down 1.6%. It's only down half. It's only down half of what Tesla's down. This chart actually looks pretty good from the hourly. I mean, it looks like this looks like it formed that bottom, and we're going through like a wick off type of like jumping the creek kind of situation. Like you're like, and you're out. I mean, man, am I crazy to like this? Am I crazy to like that? I don't care about this stock. I don't care about this stock at all. But I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Like if you saw this, guys, you would have bought this too. You would have bought it too, right? Remember 2 months ago, what was it? Stellantis did do the same drop from 2 months ago. Yeah, so it even de-risked a little bit. I mean, it only de-risked like 15%, where the others did like 24%, and it's only down 8%. Oh man, let's humor me real quick, guys. If I was to call this the high, I don't even know if this is the high. Let's say this is the high. Let's say this is all-time high for Stellantis. I don't know if it is. God, it's only down 23%. Jesus Lord. Ugh. That's frustrating, right? Okay, let's look at our chart, guys. All-time high, down to 265, 36%. Man, they got us. They got us. Okay, let's go to the news real quick. The only relevant news that I think we should really care about, and so we can just scream at Goldman Sachs. We're just going to go over real quick. Tesla stock fell on Monday. We know that. Yes, we got it. We got that under control. Okay, so as far as the overall the price target's 275. As far as the rating, it's a neutral. Basically, it's a sell. Neutral's a sell to me. No one wants to be it's a nice way to tell the industry, hey, we're selling this. They're the ones that probably did that 10 million sale order on Friday. These Goldman Sachs people, they probably front run their own report. If you want, we were talking about like conflict of interest with like Adam Jonas and Jim Cramer last week. The whole idea that banks are going to like trade stocks, they have like a trading department, they have like, prop houses probably underneath them somewhere, and they're like able to manipulate the price of a stock by coming out with this really bad report, in the sense that, okay, they're bringing earnings per share for 2023 down to $3.40 a share. Highlighted here later on the same paragraph, it's that the consensus is 3.36. It's basically $3.40. They've just been kind of like chilling for a little bit. Goldman Sachs is like, I don't know, should we do it now? Let's just wait. Let's wait until like Tesla has like a 10% move on the weakest part of the year. I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. And they did. Can I say this is really all about Tesla being quote unquote like earnings revised or what have you? Yeah, I think you could say that, yes, this wasn't great for the stock, obviously, because it's always this whole, earnings compression is really based off, the price cuts eating into margins. They're talking about it right here. And they even address that the Model 3 has a price raise. I don't know if it's in this report. Okay, but in this article, but they actually addressed that the Model 3 had a price increase for their new models. Yeah, it was only a couple of percent, but they're like, okay, even though like Model S and X are making up like anywhere from 1% to 3% ish of sales for a specific region, those were cut severely. We're gonna cut the earnings on Tesla. Okay, I'll take a step back. I don't necessarily disagree with the street on that, because we talked about it in another video where whenever, I don't know what factory is producing, probably Fremont, is going to produce the new Model 3. I told you guys, mentally prepare for a massive, I know we had a recent price cut on the Model 3, I know that, but even more so on the Model 3. And whenever Project Juniper comes out, oh Lord, going through an inventory clear out on Model Ys, I know people will like it. But when it comes to the street, unless we're sitting in like an interest rate environment of like 2%, it's going to suck. And it's going to suck a lot. And all we can hope for is by then we have just butt tons of Model 3s being pumped out of Fremont, revamped, Cybertrucks going crazy, and we're actually seeing like little 2-seater cars running around Austin covered with, black blankets or something, testing out the new Model 2 or next generation vehicle. Whatever that is. All I know is Cybertruck's awesome. We have no word on delivery date. That sucks. From my understanding, if you follow Gregor Truck on Twitter, he really follows like the progress of the Austin factories, like kind of assembly line upgrades, and looks like we're still not producing cars out of Austin. Okay, so when we get the production delivery numbers next month for Tesla's Q3, I just want everyone to like take like some type of I'm not suggesting taking any type of medicine unless you're prescribed it, but something to keep your nerves calm, your heart rate just predictable in that way. Because when it comes to a production number for next quarter, a report that comes out next quarter that will reflect this quarter's numbers, you can show me all the delivery numbers you want, but the delivery number is going to need to be a nice beat, because the production numbers it's going to be a headline type of like national newspaper type of story. So I'm just, I'm warning everyone about, price cuts on Model 3s in America. I'm worried about production numbers affecting, overall sentiment. And everyone can say like, oh, that's a great time for me to buy. I'm like, every time I ask people like, oh, you're going to add to Tesla? I'm like, where are you adding? And you're like, I'm going to add at like 260. I'm like, you're adding at 260? Let's look at the chart. Let's go back to chart. Is 260 a good number? I don't know if it's a good number, guys. I don't know. Okay, Mark, if you're adding to Tesla, okay, we broke out of our little triangle and broke down from that. Didn't maintain trend line. Not so great. Green line, red line, kind of anticipating that, I'm not, so you can tell from my red line that I keep moving over to the right. I'm not surprised. Like, okay, so just know when it sells quick in the morning, guys. It sells quick. Unless the news is some random black swan event in the middle of the day, it's going to sell quick. So when it's selling, like, I know it sucks that, you don't want to go short of that moment. But guys, it's very common that when the sell happens, it just keeps happening, right? It just keeps going. And it just doesn't stop. So like, look at this sell this is from Thursday. There's not even a great entry sometimes to get a retracement to buy a cheaper short. Today there was, but you'd have to wait all day to see it realized, right? If you got this retracement here at 10:30, you'd have to wait the whole day just to see that. And that move would be like, what, 1.5%? I don't know. I'm not interested in catching that type of move. I'm interested in a move that would be like this. Like if you get this move here on Wednesday, Wednesday last week, you get this like pump in the morning, and then you get almost like a full retracement, but doesn't get a full fill. Like that's when I would enter along. When I get a full retracement like that, I'd play the other way. For example, you get like on this day, on the day after the big pump, you get that run. You short that, and you short it until it's equal. And then I think me and my friends try to go long right here on Tuesday. Yeah, that was a mistake. But anyways, not great for Tesla. The overall weakness, there's no reason that it will stop, because like I told you guys, the motivation. If you are managing money, if you're trading, if your year is terrible and all your, like you have a couple like, compatriots in the industry who outperformed you because they went long NASDAQ in January, and you're sitting there like, oh no, I was gold, I was oil, I was energy the whole time. This is your moment. You short it into oblivion, and then you go long whenever a quote unquote bottoming happens. And I can't tell you what that's going to look like. All I can tell you is that, it respects levels. Like we talked about this level a lot, 265. It tested it over and over and over again. That's why it's not like I'm drawing these squiggly lines for any other reason for the fact that they line up at $5 increments, guys. That's it. And why do the $5 increments matter? It's only because of options. And options, it almost, especially as the week goes on, it's more important than the news sometimes. The news is just the reason for the people that have a lot of options sold to, influence that pricing. That's it. We're never, okay? Just know that. Understand that. Your levels are basically $5 levels below us. You can even you can even like go for the $2.50 increments if you want, like 62.50, then 260 right here. I mean, this is the trend line from the 2 weeks ago, and that will intersect on tomorrow. That would look like a 259, right? I think adding is like a VWAP thing. Like if depending on where you want to anchor, like the VWAP, I think that's a great time to add. Whenever kind of gets to the bottom of your bands. But if you get to the point where you're about to break to the outside of the week lower, like tomorrow, let's say it's like, okay, we go lower, we do like a 3% move down over the course of the day, and you're sitting at like 255. I mean, that's kind of when I would add, right? Because you're at the lower estimated, move for the week from my estimation. Estimates will differ. Then after that, like, what's your add? Like, I mean, number one, you have to ask yourself, do I get out instead of add more, right? You need to know if you're trading, am I just going to get out? I don't know. Because, Tesla has a lot of momentum to the downside. And if we had a lot of momentum to the upside, which we have in the past, it's nice and all, but it's not like we're making new highs. It's like we're like encountering resistance at some moving average or something like that, and we're not getting to like 300. Like, come on, like, give me a break. All this movement down here into 260s, I'm like, it's gonna be like 240 by the end of the week at this rate. We need a good catalyst. We need a good move. I don't know what that move is gonna be. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what, the estimated, like, going to 255, going to 260, all that can be done really quick. So just be aware. Scenario for everybody, so you're prepared for the game plan. I mean, if you want to formulate the game plan, tell me what happens when it does this. If this does this in the morning, it opens up green and it gets to 268. I want to know what you want to do. This has been a line that we respected before because it's found some buying before, and it actually was like it turned to a resistance before as well. So that's why we have our little pink dotted line at 268. I just want to know, if it gets to that point, what do you do? Just for a percentage, so you guys know what that percentage move is. If it gets up 1.2%, what are we doing? I'm not sure. But if you find resistance there and it just kind of bounces around, I don't know if that's a great time to go short. It might be. What's the next one we want to do? It'd be kind of like a support resistance kind of flipped zone here below the gap. It's going to be like you get up there, just so you know what percentage term is, so you know, just real quick math. You don't have to be looking at the chart all the time. If it does a 2.3% move, anything over 2%, you're getting to the point where you're getting to the gap, and was an area that found some buying before, which could also can turn into selling when you're approaching from the downside. So what if it does that? What do you do there? If it opens red, let's say it opens red tomorrow, what are you going to do if it does this? Right? Like, are we buying? Are we buying? That's a trend line from 2 weeks ago. What does that move look like in percentage terms? So you guys know the number offhand. Over 2% to the downside. You're interacting with that trend line. You're looking at the bottom side of the gap from Monday. You're flirting with filling inside that gap. Some closing the gap. Not that great. Not so awesome. Tesla is better when it gets into the gap, gets out of the gap really quick, doesn't close in it, and gets out. Okay? That's much, much better for Tesla for a momentum type of thing. We don't want to be diddling around in the gap like we're NVIDIA. But I guess we move like NVIDIA sometimes. I don't know. Anyways, thanks so much for listening, guys. And we need a lot of luck to close this month out. If we go flat, Is that like a good compromise instead of like going down negative 10%? I don't know. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.